Okay, this is part 7 of the quotes from Frank Smith. The guy's a great educator. If you're interested in education, Frank Smith is useful. I know I'm going through a lot of stuff on him, but you want to know Frank Smith. He says, with computers, the possibility exists that schools and computers will be considered redundant. Why even go to school if everything's just on a computer? Why not just stay home? But they're not going to let you do that because they want to get you away from your parents. They don't want your mom teaching you about life and responsibility and loyalty to your family and your religion. No, they want you at school where they can turn you into a little hedonistic atheist. Okay, the ultimate crushing of the classic view of education will be the total elimination of direct human contact in formal education. In its place will be electronic interconnections, interpersonal relations without persons, without communication, without community, without anyone for learners to identify with. Teachers are holding on now in the same way that the horse-drawn carriages were holding on after automobiles went into mass production. Once it is accepted that students can get all the education they need electronically, it won't take long to realize they don't have to go to school, they can stay home. The major expenses of any educational system, personnel, and facilities will be removed at a stroke. Oh, they're going to do something to block that. It's just like with doctors. They said, oh, you can read an EKG with a machine. Then they're like, oh, no, we got to have a doctor's name on it. So they can sue them, Standardized instruction in computers are a marriage made in a technological netherworld. That is true. The official theory is doubly detrimental. We can only learn from activities that are interesting and comprehensible to us. It is wasted effort if the activity is not enjoyable to the student. It means they're not only learning the wrong things, namely that they can't succeed in learning what they're trying to learn, they're also learning that they don't want to learn it. Yeah, that was the experience I came out of from grade school and high school. Why do I care about all this stupid stuff they're trying to teach me? And it's not because they know better than me. They don't know better than me. My parents know better than them. And my parents don't teach me the crap they're trying to teach me in these public schools. The way to hold something in long-term memory is to relate it to something you already know. Teachers sometimes ask what I think might be done to liberate schools from the stultifying hold of the official theory of learning. I offer suggestions that we should abolish all of the following. Should get rid of testing, fragmented instructional materials, drills, memorization, segregation into special ability groups, time constraints. Like I said, the teacher, Donalyn Miller, she just let the kids read whatever they want. In 6th grade, they read 42 books a year. Versus if you force them to read something, they're only going to read 1 or 2 books. They're going to hate it, and they're going to weasel out of it as best they can, and you end up with nothing. People are designed to learn what they care about, not what they're forced to do. If you want your child to be like someone, then have them spend time with that type of person. We learn from apprenticeship and memory, and that's a little bit of a repeat. And what you learn in this way is almost impossible to forget. Think about it. You remember how to play baseball, football, tennis, and all these other sports because you wanted to learn, and you just remember it. Even though there's a lot of complexity to the details of all the rules in sports. Okay, then the official theory is based on the memory research of Ebbinghaus. But Ebbinghaus is a joke because Ebbinghaus's research on memory was to memorize nonsense. But in a sense, that's what school largely is, okay? And people get pissed off at me when I say it, but I do not think they should be teaching so much math. It's a waste of time. Nobody uses mathematics except for a few really, really small, less than 1% of the population as engineers, okay? Regular people, they don't need to know algebra, trigonometry, calculus, any of that stuff. What good does it do you? I'm a really, really high-tech doctor. I don't ever use any of that stuff. Nothing that I didn't know by about 3rd grade, okay? In the modern classrooms, the study material is decontextualized and designed by distant authorities who have no way of knowing or rectifying the difficulties they create. They make learning painful when it should be a pleasure. They make forgetting inevitable. The official view of learning is that it is totally recent and totally artificial. The official view is about controlling people. That's what they want to do. Create low-functioning, conformist minimum wage employees. The classic view is supported by thousands of years of experience in every culture in the world. The classic view says that the student's self-image is continual, effortless, independent of outside rewards. It's obvious when you're learning something you want to know. The reward is obvious. Yes, I want to learn how to drive. Yes, I want to learn how to communicate better. Yes, I want to learn how to speak better. Okay, the official theory says that learning is dependent on rewards and punishments. It's basically behaviorism, and it requires hard work. And they deliberately make it so you can't remember anything. Nobody can remember dates for studying history. What you remember is the biographies of great men, okay? You study the ancient Greeks, you're going to remember the great men. You're going to remember Aristotle. You study the Romans, you're going to remember Cicero. You study, France around 1800, you're going to remember Napoleon. Okay. Teachers may not be teaching what they think they are teaching. To find out what students actually learn, look at the way they leave school. If they leave school thinking about school things like reading, writing, and math or history, and if they think these things are boring or difficult and irrelevant to their lives, and that they themselves are dummies, that's what they learned in school. And I actually think school teaches most people to think that they're stupid. And it does it on purpose because it's a way to say, well, we have a fair system. You're just a crappy student. You don't deserve the good jobs, okay? But there's way more to it than that, okay? The way to think of school is it's a game. It's a memorization game. So you want to be good at school, be good at memorization, and you'll be good at school. Study skills make a tremendous difference, but they don't teach study skills. They don't teach things that empower the student. Okay, how do you get on the merry-go-round in the first place? The question has a simple answer. If you can't read for yourself, have somebody read to you. Somebody shows you how it's done. This is like scaffolding, okay, like Vygotsky. Okay, children have never become dependent on other people to do anything they can do for themselves. They don't have the patience. There is nothing to learn from what confuses us except that it is confusing. Yeah, so it has to be made intelligible, understandable. You put something in a long-term memory by finding a structure that already exists for it in your head, by making sense of it, by making a comparison, a metaphor, a simile to what you already know. Okay, let's see here. Behaviorism is totally about external control. The evidence comes from caged animals pulling levers, meaningless even for the animal. Yeah, that's what you are, like I said too. And I said, in my former marriage, my ex-wife, I remember I was reading this about Skinner behaviorism, and I'm thinking, rewards and punishment, a pigeon in a cage with these levers. Like, oh, this is ridiculous. This has got nothing to do with my life. And then I thought, oh my God, the family home is like a Skinner box, and my wife was the trainer. I was a dumb animal. Nagging sex, nagging sex, nagging sex. Do as I say. You got 3 minutes. That's it. Okay. Anyways, the next thing here. The word education was once largely synonymous with experience, but today learning and education mean acquiring and storing retrieved information, which is what computers do. Yeah, and humans are not going to get far if they try to do what a computer does. Humans can beat a computer when you have, like, application of knowledge, okay? And I like this one definition, this one psychologist. He used to say, he was actually a psychiatrist. He said, it was William Glasser. He says, education, real knowledge is something that you use. Yeah, you use to do something as a way to communicate. Okay? You can struggle to memorize something you don't understand, but forgetting is inevitable. Nonsense is the opposite of structure. It's chaos. You can't attach that to anything in your head because it's just nonsense. You can temporarily make a word association, but that's not going to last unless you do more than that. Okay, let's see here. Subjects like history, geography, natural sciences are beyond the original experience of students and can only make sense when the individual begins to think like a historian, a geographer, and a scientist. Yeah, that's why you got to spend time getting yourself into a philosophical mindset where you can relate to these things. Otherwise, they're a waste of time to study. A crucial role for teachers is to find individuals in life and literature with whom the students can identify. Yeah, that's why you want to read a good book where you can relate to the characters. Okay. How much you see depends on what you already know. How well you cope with anything depends on how much you know already. The reason we pause in the middle of a sentence rather than at the end is because of a powerful social rule. It's rude to interrupt us in the middle of a sentence, so we don't want to give the other person a chance to interrupt. Okay, that's it for part 7 of Quotes by Frank Smith. I hope you found that helpful.